Hey everyone, it's William from Bags, and it is Valentine's Day here, but probably not when you're listening to this. Welcome to the CashPod, your go-to guide for building a bigger, better, cash flowing business. And today we want you to feel the love, but not in the way of that movie Her. We're going to break down everything growth and specifically how we use AI to help businesses grow. AI is shaping every industry, role, and workflow. If it's used the right way, it can make your life so much easier. So let's talk about how we use it at Bags, how you can use it in your day-to-day life or your work life, and what you can do to get AI to work for you, not the other way around. We'll cover it all. Let's get into it. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited about today's episode because we're going to talk about the tech we've built. I think we talk a lot about, how we think about processes that entrepreneurs are going to experience or how entrepreneurs can react in certain situations. I'm really excited to have a chance to talk about how we are building to solve problems that we've talked about on this pod over and over again, and also to highlight something that anyone who's listening to this can get in on, which is our product newsletter. We regularly send updates, and by regularly, I mean Ignacio every other week sends a detailed dive into what's the latest on building technology products and Bags. And today we're going to dive deep into one element of that, which is AI.
Beautiful. Cool. I'm excited. We can just jump right in. I think something close, near and dear to our hearts, which is like personal workflows. Before we actually dive into how we build our product, maybe if you want to, I know you're actually an AI power user, William, and I actually think you use it much more effectively and efficiently to supercharge what you're already good at and fill the gaps where maybe you have some knowledge gaps in ways that people don't necessarily think about AI as a first port of call. Do you want to maybe give us a little rundown of what your day-to-day workflow looks like and how you bring AI into just making you better at what you do?
Yeah, I think it's in there's two sides to this. One is that like with AI, a huge amount is possible, right? I'm not a classically trained engineer, but I have coded good code in AI tools. I am not a classically trained accountant, but I have successfully reconciled complex books because of what I was able to verify and learn through AI. So AI can make someone who doesn't have years of training or education capable of doing work that is on par with someone who does have that capability and education in a lot of cases. At the same time, it can be wrong all the time. So I think in my day-to-day life, I'm balancing what elements of my day are acceptable to be turned over to AI in terms of like the complexity and importance of what those things are. And then like what elements of larger things can I outsource to AI while making sure that like at the end of the day that the boxes that is getting checked, the final review is happening by me because I am acutely aware of where AI has shortfalls. I've had an AI get something wrong, double down on that thing that was wrong multiple times before admitting like, oh wait, I made a mistake and then correcting it. So if I know that an AI can be wrong and convicted in their wrongness, well, I need to be really careful about how I apply it and the guardrails that I put around what it allows in terms of like the final step.
And I think this is like a really nice segue into even how we think about it philosophically, not just in how we build, but in terms of our workflows. Like we across engineering, across design, across product, across accounting, across our functions as founders, it's never replacement for what we do. And I think that's like the most important thing to take away. It's always going to be a supplement. And I think it's always going to be enhanced by the inputs that we give it to make the use case more specific, more niche down, more kind of problem focused. I think one thing to kind of step back on a little bit is maybe, and I just got excited and jumped the gun there a little, but I wanted to make sure that we also cover how AI is our position in the market right now. Like you have these LLMs, large language models, which I think are like increasingly commoditized. We're all going to have access to them. It's going to be super cheap. They're going to be increasingly competitive. You have like OpenAI, you have Anthropic, you have Google Gemini. You have a few new players coming in, and like literally every month, these models get better. And when I think what's really important to realize when you're dealing with new companies that are using AI is that most folks are building on top of the same models. And how they build on top of those same models is what really matters in terms of how well do they use the data, how well can they structure it, how well do they know the problem to understand how to make the most of the tool. And I think that's really where we get to with our philosophy of like AI is a feature, not the product.
Mm.
Because I think if you don't know, like, here's the problem. If you kind of just like have a general sense of the problem, you just like say, okay, I'm gonna throw a wrapper on top of ChatGPT and let people chat to this about whatever it might be. Like they're running training plans, right? But if you know the problem a little bit more specifically, and you're like, okay, I am a runner, and I know that a training block is 12 to 16 weeks, and I know what a negative split is in terms of a race and things like that. I am gonna shout out our friend of Bags, Hector, on this because he's building something in this space. But and this is where I'm like getting my example from. So I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. But what I'm trying to get at is the more specific you are with the problem, I think the better you can start layering AI on top of it to give a solution that's productive, that's less prone to errors, and that's more like fueled and contextualized by the manual solution. And I think that's where we come back to is like, if we're building a product, we should be able to solve it without AI. The problem without AI, we should be able to solve it manually. We should be able to solve it automatically with software, but not AI. And then I think like for the fourth layer, the cherry on top of the cake is bringing in large language models to make it more efficient, to make it more interesting, to make it better. Because that's how, when we start looking at our platform and our product, every moment that you have an interaction with an AI component, it's something that we've done a million times before and have like taken all of those lessons, all of that data, poured it into the model and are using that to just improve the output and make it feel more personal, make it use specific data in specific ways. And I think that's where it gets super, super powerful when it's that feature on top of a solution that you're already built out.
Well, what you're saying really strikes me as sort of a bigger picture good thing, because something that I've noticed is that in the world of folks who do accounting, the conversation around AI has for a very long time been, and in many cases continues to be, how does AI replace my need to pay a human accountant to do accounting work? And entire companies have been built on the premise of replacing human accountants with AI. And for what it's worth, I've seen under the hood at most of them, and none of them provide a satisfactory accounting experience, right? The AI is good at categorizing certain transactions. It's way off on others. And when it gets into the more complex work, like journal entries and offsetting records in a balance sheet, there's just nothing that's going to solve that without human input, at least now. And the result, I think, is that AI in those cases is creating a race to the bottom. How do I cut costs, save more money, charge less, win more customers, but like really like race down to have the lowest common denominator solution to a problem? Where what you just described sounds like the complete opposite approach. How do you take a service that is necessary and add value on top of it, perhaps to justify either the cost or to help cover the cost of, or add value to cover the cost of the human support that gets provided? And I think that's a pretty rosy and optimistic lens on how this stuff can work. Is that sort of what you're describing too?
Yeah, I think so. And I think like even taking a step upwards in the process, no matter like what you're working on with tech, like is my favorite phrase, like good data in, good data out, bad data in, bad data out. It's just like
It's the rule of all accounting too, by the way.
yeah,
I mean, you're in the right place.
Exactly. And I think like when there's just like a wider systemic issue with the financial technology ecosystem where just it's super obscure, it's super nebulous, things are just like named randomly. And this is, because of like kind of prehistoric technological systems. So like, it's that classic thing of you're on your Amex or your bank account or your credit card or whatever, and you see backslash S4 5, and like you have no idea where you paid 14.99, right? Like I don't know what that was. And then maybe there's a map somewhere, so you realize that it was a 7-Eleven on a road trip. That's the kind of thing where, an AI is it's a model trained on, human language and then kind of positive or negative, responses that are correct or incorrect to those queries, right? Over and over and over with immense amounts of data. When
I
something's,
could I could
yeah,
show you a bank statement that has 100 transactions from Amazon, money spent at Amazon, and some of it is from Amazon, some of it is an Amazon Prime membership, some of it might be paying for like web services, like all these different categories. It just says Amazon. That's the only, it says Amazon in the price.
yeah, yeah, and like that's even like an okay case, right? Like that's you're describing something terrible, and like that's something of the better things we see. But you can't expect a model that's like trained on like the English language to look at something totally incoherent and know what to do with it. Yeah, it's and I think there like the kind of bottom line for me is the AI won't replace humans, just like it won't for a long time, and it will only, and we've tested this internally, right? Like it's really bad at classifying like randomly named transactions. But what an AI is actually really good at is helping understand patterns for an existing data set and creating rules around that. And that's where I'm like, if you get to know how AI works, if you get super close to how your data works, if you get super tight on the problem that you're solving for, you start to understand the application really, really, really well. And that's how we're thinking about it internally too, is just bringing it around to making sure that we only tackle the problems that we understand inside and out, right? For example, our debt strategy, right? This is something that you've spearheaded the manual work on for years, right? Like how many funding plans did we create manually with shout out to Evan and the funding team before we automated anything?
2000.
Yeah, exactly. And those are the lessons that we then started to extrapolate into. We did test AI versus our internal rule set, and it turns out actually our rule set works much better than AI for this. But the AI commentary is something that we can't create with rules because it's a little bit more organic, because it's a little bit more nuanced. And I think that's kind of like what I would, anyone that's listening in and wants to think a little bit more widely about how they can use AI in their day to day or how they can leverage in their company. Obviously, for financial management growth, we got a lot of cool tools at Bax. But more widely, I think it's getting super clear on the problem you're trying to tackle, figuring out how, like, what the best use case around that problem is, because sometimes it's a little bit more indirect than direct, and then testing models against each other, because Claude from Anthropic is going to be better than Gemini from Google at something, then Gemini from Google is going to be better than OpenAI at others. And it's really like that nuanced. And that's our product development process when it comes to AI, and really how we're thinking about it in the future is actually making these processes or making these models kind of like create checks and balances against each other too, which is a little bit more sophisticated and where it gets super, super cool.
Yeah. I think one thing that's worth noting is you mentioned that like these models are improving week over week, month over month, at least you said, but in some cases week over week. And we're expecting like imminent releases, update releases on ChatGPT in the next couple months, going all the way up to 5. It feels like just yesterday we were at 3. The future of LLMs and their capabilities. I think also specifically like agentic workflows in AI, meaning like AI that completes tasks for you. Where do you see the near-term evolution? And how do you recommend people engage with AI currently so that they can, make the most of what it allows?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question. I think the agentic thing is a little bit of a hype in the hype space for me right now, because
I
we've
agree.
tested it, right? Yeah.
I agree.
And everyone's like AI is just gonna like be my personal assistant and do everything for me. If you actually start messing around with it, like it takes longer to write out the instructions of what you want it to do than just doing the thing yourself, right? So like a tip, I think the thing that they launched with was like, oh, AI can go and book a hotel for you. Great. The instructions, if you're like, hey, book me a hotel in New York, it's just gonna go to booking.com, search New York, and book the first thing that comes up, which is probably sponsored, super expensive, random
Or
dates,
terrible.
or
Like
terrible, right? Yeah, you don't know. You don't know what
if
you're
you
gonna
and
get.
right, it's like the genie, and it's like maybe not a genie there's an old thing where it's like a wish granter that takes the most specific version of what you wished for and makes that real rather than like it gives you what you wish for, not what you want.
Exactly.
And if you
Exactly.
don't give explicit, perfect information to AI, it's why prompting hack, every time I prompt I don't ask it to answer something unless it's very rudimentary. I always describe my circumstance and I say, ask any clarifying questions that'll help you answer this.
Yeah,
And
which is
that
great.
one little thing makes sure that I can get the right answer for what I'm looking for. Because it's so easy to be like, oh, wait, I didn't put small business on here and now it's talking to me about mortgages.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with agentic, it's especially relevant because it doesn't even have the guardrails of the chat as like the workflow that you're describing. And so it's just going to go out and do a random thing. And so writing the instructions like, I need a hotel in New York from these dates in this budget with this amount of reviews, this kind of rating in this area. And then at that point, just like go to booking.com, do it yourself. It'll take less time. So I think that one's a little bit early and there's a lot of hype around it. For me, where it gets super exciting is what I was kind of talking about earlier, which is the models are getting cheaper, they're getting more competitive, and I think people are getting a lot smarter about building hyper niche applications on top of those models. And so instead of going to ChatGPT for everything, you can go to, for example, to this booking experience, like to a booking platform that is built on top of these models, leveraging their immense booking expertise to get you exactly what you need a little bit faster or a little bit better or a little bit cheaper. And that's, I think, where it gets exciting is that there's a little bit of a ubiquity of AI in our day to day. But what I would say is like lean into the niches as a user, right? Like go for the apps that have expertise in the subject matter that you're looking for. Because, if I'm just going to keep going down this hotel example, if booking.com has an AI assistant, chances are it's built on the same technology as ChatGPT, but it's much more streamlined for the use case that you're looking for. And so the engineering and product teams behind those wrappers have done all of the thinking for you instead of you having to kind of go and refine your prompts and do your research and use ChatGPT generically. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to get more and more and more specific. I am super excited about how you can bring in a certain degree of nuance that was never possible before if the AI gets access to the right data. This is what we see at Bags, right? Like the level of financial commentary that we're able to provide through our AI features is so much higher than anything we'd be able to do with machine learning or rules-based commentary. It's so specific to your business, to your growth use case, to
Yeah, it's
your
qualitative
loan
and
modernizations.
quantitative. So
Exactly.
quantitative data results like leads to good insights, but when there's a qualitative component, it really gets better.
Yeah, 100%. And then I just think on the personal side, we're gonna start to see these things like filter slowly but surely. I think the spaces that we already work, like you see Apple launched an AI optimized phone. We'll see what that means, but I do think it is gonna get smarter and easier to use the technology that we already have available.
I can tell you what it means. It means that instead of seeing my text messages, I get a like pretty okay summary of what the text messages were about. You know what
There
I
you
mean?
go. I
Like
do. Yeah,
that's what the AI and emails too. The
that's
email
it.
one is like either really useful or really frustrating.
Yeah. But yeah, I think those are the top three things I'm excited about, and I think there's a lot of opportunity in the space. But personal productivity is going to explode. It's going to explode to a degree that we haven't seen, and I think if you are someone that really looks at it from the lens of this will not this, I think I heard a podcast recently where the two people talking said something like either you get AI to work for you or you're going to end up working for AI. And I think that's a little bit extreme and absolute, but I do think there is something about the power of getting AI to work for you and knowing that it's, the same kind of skill set of working with others and working with teammates to get the most out of your team. You got to manage it. You still have to do your checks. You still have to train each other. You still have to learn from each other. Um, and if you look at it from that lens, it can supercharge whatever workflow you're in, whether you are an accountant or an engineer or a business owner.
All right. We've talked a lot about AI directionally. Let's roll through a little bit of what AI is actually doing for Bags customers. We have like three features that are heavily AI driven, and we're using AI as a supplement in some other spaces. But what is the most exciting of the three for you? And then let's talk a little bit about how like maybe each of them provides tremendous value to someone who's using the Bags platform the right way.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super happy to talk about it. So, as an overview, the way that we use AI in platform is essentially directionalized feature-based commentary. What that means, I think, just kind of like bringing it back home is that it's not a generic chatbot. It's not a generic insight generation engine. It's very much targeted around the feature that you're using in the platform. So, for example, we have in your financial analytics dashboard a CFO Insights commentary AI, which means it'll take all of the analytics that you're looking at and give you CFO level insights on where you're doing well, where you could be doing better. It gives you actionable next steps. It gives you a potential forecast just looking at your historicals. That's one. The other one is on the P&L and balance sheet review for our SaaS users. They can come in, upload their P&L and balance sheet and see, is it good? Is it not good? And what we've done is really niche down and figure out like, is this loan optimized? And so it'll do an analysis of those actual documents and give you a heads up on like what a lender might want to see, what might be a red flag to them, where it could get interesting or complicated. And finally, we also do that, we get even more niche down when we're looking at cost tracking. And we give you a sense of where your costs are per SKU against similar businesses in both stage, industry, description, growth potential. So you get a sense of, like, am I charging people what I need to be charging them? Am I paying what I should be paying for these inventory items? Am I overpaying, underpaying? Like, what's my deal at? Because I think these are the questions where you start to ask yourself as a business owner that don't have a straightforward answer. I'm really excited about the three of them, but I think where I get most, like, as you can see, we are getting more niche down in each time we deploy AI. And that's what I'm most excited about. Like, I want our AI engine and commentary to be so specific to whatever you're looking at on the screen that it's unbelievable, right? Because there's so many different problems that you're dealing with when it comes to financial management that the umbrella is interesting. But, like, am I paying too much on flour for the cookie that I'm making versus my competitors is literally the kind of thing that makes a 2-3% difference on your gross margins. Right, you don't know, and that could be kind of game changing for your cash flow, for what you're able to pay back a lender, for the kind of capital that you can bring in to grow. We are obsessed with those margins, and I think that that's where our AI can help small business owners make better decisions. One bonus thing I'll add that maybe isn't super kind of clear when you're looking at the screen and the product is that AI allows us to charge what we charge because it supercharges our team, right? And that's everyone kind of asks us like, hey, what's up with your prices? And really, a lot of it comes down to integrating artificial intelligence and automated automations into our workflow in a way where we're building the best technology. We're able to still provide an excellent and amazing service that has that human touch at an incredibly competitive cost. And that kind of happens behind the scenes. But I think the best companies aren't just putting an AI wrapper out there, but they're integrating those AI workflows into how they build, into how they produce a service, into their day-to-days, like even how they write their communications with each other. So that's, I think, what I'm most psyched about.
I love that. I think that the most important hire that a small business can make is a finance hire, but finance hires have specialized knowledge, therefore they are expensive, come at a high cost, and it takes a while for a business to like feel like they have capacity to support that. It is incredible to see a business that has maybe, paid a few $1,000s in a month for some like very high level fractional advice from someone who for that cost honestly shouldn't be spending a ton of time on the business or doesn't have any of those insights at all, become capable of making effective financial decisions and like sort of CFOing their own stuff because they have the specialized knowledge being provided to them by like a really specifically trained and deeply capable insights machine that's not going to make any actions, but is going to like really stand up the ability for someone to take actions. And I'm a testament to it, right? I was a Shakespearean scholar who is now capable of doing deep critical financial analysis, like full suite FP&A and technical accounting, because I got good at how I used AI in my day to day. It goes so much further when you don't have to teach the AI yourself and can just get the benefit of something that's already trained to serve a purpose that really benefits you. And it's awesome. We already have stories of clients using the CFO report to justify equity investment, to explain their business to lenders and get approved at higher amounts. We know that these features work and go a long way. And the great news is that as our unit economics improve, we are going to both continue to improve the quality of the service and improve the depth of the experience around education and the insights that we provide. So all that's to say is that we're not stopping here, are we?
No, and there's really exciting stuff coming up. So I think we'll do another one of these soon to just give an overview of where it's gone and how it's going. But really excited for the road ahead of AI in general and especially AI app bags.
If you're interested in messing around with our AI models, we welcome you to drop us a note, team@securebags.com, and we'll send you a discount code for 1 month free of the Bags platform.